Good morning. I've been thinking a little bit more about the Roundway experiment. It seems that the Paracelsus group, who run a lot of the British intelligence operations via Masonic lodges in Eastern Europe and southwestern Russia, have a scheme whereby they contract the Chechen mob to kidnap Russian mental patients with psychic abilities and Russian mental patients who speak English, who are involved in parapsychological research experiments. And they transport them to Vladivostok, and from there on via container ship to the Barnstable region, where they are eventually transferred to devices. So it's interesting to consider indeed many of these Russian mental patients that are kept in the secret facility beneath Roundway Asylum are utilized for radiation experiments. Indeed, there is a doctor who I believe goes by the name Dr. Alan Warren, who is a British intelligence operative who is basically conducting radiation experiments to attempt to create a mutant human being that can withstand nuclear war. So it's interesting to consider the nature of the experimentation going on beneath the Roundway Asylum. Indeed, most of it is of a mind-controlled super spy basis. Indeed, it is mainly the continuation of Project Aniseed and the wish that the British intelligence services have to utilize these Russian mental patients as operatives of psychic warfare and as hypno-programmed agents, spies, operatives, couriers, and assassins against the Russian Federation. So it's interesting to consider that the British intelligence services are attempting to utilize networks of Russian schizophrenic super spies in the hybrid war between the intelligence services of the United Kingdom and the Russian Federation. So it's all very interesting to consider the Paracelsus group contract Chechen jihadist militants to kidnap these Russian mental patients from secret psychiatric facilities across Russia, as well as overt psychiatric facilities and also off the streets. So it's a very difficult time to be a mental patient in Russia. Indeed, mental patients in Russia these days cannot really go out alone for fear of being kidnapped by Chechen militants and transferred via container ship to the Barnstable region and eventually to the Roundway Asylum experiment, which takes place in the catacombs beneath the old Roundway Hospital. And on the site of the old Roundway Hospital stands the current Green Lane Psychiatric Facility. Indeed, the majority of mental patients in the Green Lane Psychiatric Facility are unaware of what is going on beneath their feet. However, the entire staff are aware of the Roundway experiment and the fact that the Roundway experiment is continuing on to this day. So it's all a very interesting situation to consider indeed. As I stated before, earlier in the video, one of the chiefs of the Roundway experiment is a Dr. Alan Warren, who is a British intelligence radiation warfare specialist and is conducting radiation experiments on Russian mental patients and schizophrenic super spies to attempt to create a mutant human being that would be able to withstand a nuclear attack. So it's all really quite dark what is going on in the catacombs beneath Roundway. And indeed, Devices police are aware of the Roundway experiment, however, they do not have the security clearances to know the details. Indeed, I was kept abreast of all of these details through nighttime meetings I had with escaped Russian mental patients from the Roundway experiment. Indeed, all of the Russian mental patients in the Roundway experiment speak English, so it's very interesting to consider indeed. They would not have full value as schizophrenic super spies for British intelligence if they did not speak the English language. Indeed, they are selected on the basis that they speak the English language. So it's interesting to consider they are specifically designated and targeted for their attributes. So it's all very interesting to consider indeed. As I've stated before, on a cold night in January 2020, while I was walking back to my lodgings on Long Street in Devizes, I was just off Morris Lane and I encountered 3 Russian mental patients, 2 males and 1 beautiful brunette female, who were running away from the low booth residence where they were being kept in chains in the basement. Indeed, they informed me all about the Roundway experiment and told me that I basically had to expose it, and that in doing so there would be a lot of trouble. Indeed, there would most probably be a backlash against paranoid schizophrenics across Wiltshire by Wiltshire residents if the Roundway Asylum experiment was exposed, and indeed this does seem to be happening. But with devices now, residents now threatening to basically burn down Green Lane Psychiatric Hospital with the mental patients inside. So it's all very interesting to consider the strain of anti-mental patient ideology within the Devizes residence. And as I stated before, the Roundway Asylum in its heyday was staffed by wardens recruited directly from the town of Devizes. Indeed, I believe the majority of Green Lane staff now are also recruited from the town of Devizes. And this explains their cruelty to mental patients, which is ingrained in the satanic nature of Devizes residents. A lot of this has to do with the fact that the Moonraker Lodge number 8747 puts chemicals in the water supply to induce demonic states within the minds of the population. Therefore, they act accordingly, which is all very interesting to note and really quite disturbing for the observer, especially an observer who is a paranoid schizophrenic such as myself. To observe the Devizes resonance is really quite disturbing and quite shocking. Indeed. Just gonna have a quick vape. It's very hot this morning. As I stated before, the Roundway experiment was begun in 1947 by a combined intelligence group of British MI6 intelligence operatives, American Office of Strategic Services staff, and Nazi intelligence operatives, programmers, and psychiatrists. Indeed, the original head psychiatrist of the Roundway experiment was a German by the name of Adolf Kramer, who was transported to the United Kingdom as an asset of Project Moribund, which is the MI6 transportation of Nazi scientists, programmers, psychiatrists, and intelligence operatives to the United Kingdom in view of the setting up eventually of a techno-feudal fascist dystopia in the United Kingdom. Indeed, the groundwork was all laid for this during the Second World War. Indeed, I believe the Second World War was a sham. Indeed, I even go so far as to state that the Germans actually won the intelligence conflict in the First World War. And the Abwehr controlled British intelligence from at least 1926 onward. So it's interesting to consider the Second World War was a facade, eventually leading to the integration of the Nazi intelligence apparatus with the British and American intelligence structures. So it's all very interesting to consider and really quite disturbing when you think of what this means for the future. Indeed, Adolf Kramer was himself overseen by a board of the National Association for Mental Health, and indeed the specific operative designated to oversee the Roundway experiment was Otto Niemeyer, who was a close confidant of the Governor of the Bank of England, Sir Montague Norman, who was himself a well-known Nazi sympathizer, and very close to the head of the Reichsbank, Dr. Hjalmar Horace Greeley Schacht. So this all begins to make sense that the psychiatric system in the United Kingdom is very much a Nazi-oriented structure. And indeed, as I've stated before, MI6 oversee all of the mental hospitals in the United Kingdom, and indeed, all of your mental health notes are shared with MI6 operatives. So it's interesting to consider, indeed, the mental health system serves as a place to dispose of unwanted paranoid schizophrenic super spies who have basically done something wrong or turned against their handlers, and also to dispose of whistleblowers who are lower level British intelligence operatives who are not themselves paranoid schizophrenic super spies, but most probably would have been under a degree of mind control by their Royal Arch Freemason handlers, i.e. the higher echelons of the British intelligence services and the high IQ societies that run the Royal Arch Freemasons. So I guess this is a picture that the British intelligence services would rather not be revealed, that the entire psychiatric structure is run by the British intelligence services, most notably MI6, i.e. the Secret Intelligence Service, which is technically the foreign intelligence division of the intelligence community of the United Kingdom, but also serves domestic purposes, even though technically it's not meant to, but it does. Indeed, it often operates domestically through proxies. Indeed, the British police were responsible for my transfer to a forensic psychiatric facility in 2021. Indeed, I most probably didn't need to be in the forensic services. However, the British police wanted to make me as uncomfortable as possible and therefore had me transferred to the forensic psychiatric unit at Blackberry Hill Hospital in Bristol. So it's interesting to consider that the police wanted revenge on me for exposing the organ harvesting cartel of Walter Rose and Sons Butcher Shop and the fact that Devizes police were running networks of rape gangs and child ritual abuse networks. So it's interesting to consider that these exposures led me on to a 5-year incarceration in a psychiatric facility as decreed by Samuel Buchan, the Master Mason and Special Branch Operative of the United Grand Lodge of England. Indeed, I've explained before that all of the terrorists resident in the United Kingdom are run by Special Branch, who are meant to be the counter-terror operation of the British state. However, they run all of the terrorist networks in the United Kingdom. So it's interesting to consider this. All terrorist attacks are basically either allowed to happen or made to happen by Special Branch. Indeed, it's all very, very strange. Indeed, how does this all relate to the Roundway experiment? Indeed, various terrorist cells are themselves trained in the Roundway experiment. There are many hypno-programmed terrorists operating in the United Kingdom, and all of these hypno-programmed terrorists undergo a degree of mind control experimentation in the catacombs beneath Roundway. Indeed, the utilization of Russian schizophrenic super-spies as terrorists is also not uncommon. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, these individuals are heavily disguised and usually eliminated after carrying out some form of terrorist attack in the United Kingdom, which they have not been consenting to do, but have been programmed to do by the psychiatrists in the Roundway experiment. So it's all very strange. And this is all a part of the Gladio 4 project. Indeed, I was incorporated into the Gladio 4 project in the spring of 2015, when I had begun to figure out that something was rotten at Grenville Lodge. Whether or not I was ever there is a matter of debate. Indeed, I was still unaware of my real identity, indeed due to severe amnesia. I cannot remember the majority of my life before the age of 22, so I was either at Grenville Lodge or I wasn't. And indeed, the exposures that I've made of Grenville Lodge on this channel still stand, despite the fact that I may have never even been there, and it was in fact my body double, the English version, who was there, and I am most probably the Russian version of this Englishman. So it's all very interesting to know and very strange to consider. However, I was incorporated into the Gladio 4 program in spring of 2015 when I was beginning to figure out that something was rotten at Grenville Lodge. Indeed, it was through watching a large number of low-budget horror movies that I began to figure out that I had been involved at some point in mind control experimentation. So it's very interesting to consider this. Indeed, I was writing a lot of Gothic poetry at the time, and the nature of the content made me realize that at some point I had been mind controlled. And in figuring out that I had been mind controlled, the British intelligence services picked me up one day off the side of the road and took me to a black site somewhere in Wiltshire and reprogrammed me, this time with Nazi fetishist ideology. Indeed, I am not a Nazi, but I was spouting a lot of Nazi ideology for a few years. And this was because of hypno-programming inculcated within my brain mechanisms and brain waves and neural pathways by the British intelligence services. especially a specific individual called Dr. Leonard Johnson, who is himself an operative of the Process Church, the Final Judgment, as it continues today. Indeed, the Process Church, the Final Judgment, is still operative today, as is its splinter offshoot, the 4Ps, who are deeply interconnected with such networks as the Maniac Murder Cult, the Nordic Resistance Movement, and 764. So it's all very interesting to consider. There are secret locations in Wiltshire for the training of weaponized autistic neo-Nazi terrorist networks. Indeed, I have a slightly ingrained issue with these weaponized autists. Indeed, these people are merely slightly neurodivergent. They are not paranoid schizophrenics. However, they are lumped in with the mentally ill label when they are just slightly autistic, and they are inclined towards the activities that are carried out by 764, the Maniac Murder Cult, the Nordic Resistance Movement, and various other aspects of the Order of Nine Angles. Indeed, these weaponized autists do seem to be quite satanic in their nature, and indeed are easily led into Satanism. And a lot of this has to do with a British police agenda that is currently being rolled out in the United Kingdom, as well as in Eastern Europe and southwestern Russia, whereby weaponized autists are recruited for these neo-Nazi satanic terrorist networks. Basically, indeed, these people are terrorists. And indeed, all of these networks of weaponized autists, known as neo-Nazi white jihad networks, seem to have a fixation and severely ingrained hatred of paranoid schizophrenics, especially paranoid schizophrenic super-spies. Indeed, they are themselves involved in the black market of paranoid schizophrenic super-spies and involved in the kidnapping of paranoid schizophrenic super-spies, mainly in Eastern Europe. Indeed, the proliferation of paranoid schizophrenic super-spies in England isn't that high. Indeed, many paranoid schizophrenics in the United Kingdom are not recruited into Project Aniseed. However, there are far vaster numbers across Eastern Europe and southwestern Russia that are recruited into paranoid schizophrenic super spy programs by various intelligence agencies. And these people are prone to kidnap, not only by the Chechen mob, but also by such networks as the Maniac Murder Cult, who's one of their Georgian operatives, Ruslan Kordiashvili, who I also know under the name Ruslan Kordakov, is currently attempting to organize a hit on me in the streets of Warminster as a combined effort of British, Russian, and Israeli intelligence, all of whom have had enough of me. So it's interesting to consider that all of these networks have contracted Ruslan Kordakov through a connection in the Wiltshire Police Headquarters. So it's interesting to consider that the Maniac Murder Cult have a direct connection within the Wiltshire Police Headquarters in Devizes. The individual is most probably Superintendent Stephen Nash. Indeed, one time where I carried out a Gladio 4 false flag attack, I was brainwashed and programmed that morning to do so by Police Lieutenant Jerome Butler, who was himself operating under contract from the Maniac Murder Cult. So the Maniac Murder Cult have been taking an interest in me since their conception in 2017. So it's all very interesting to consider that this network of neo-Nazi, nihilistic, misanthropic, white jihadist, National Socialist, theistic Satanists all want to destroy me, as do their comrades in arms, i.e. the National Anarchist Movement of Troy Southgate, who can't handle being exposed by a mental patient. Indeed, it's very interesting to note that all of these neo-Nazi Satanist networks do have some ingrained hatred of mental patients, and this is directly linked to the Roundway experiment and the fact that the Roundway experiment was begun by a neo-Nazi psychiatrist, Adolf Kramer, in 1947, operating on the orders of the board of the National Association for Mental Health, which was so heavily incorporated with the Nazi psychiatric Tiergartenstrasse 4 T4 structure that it's all very strange to consider all of the synchronicities involved in this overall intelligence operation. So it's all very strange indeed. I'm going to leave it there now.